Thanks a lot, Dr. Kolia, for that wonderful presentation. And you ended on a slide which segues perfectly into our next topic, actually, of AI factories. So for the expert speak session, I'll invite Mr. Robert Demann, who is the Executive Vice President and CEO for Smart Infrastructures, Siemens Limited. Can I have you on the stage, Robert? Can we have a big round of applause for Robert?
So it's good afternoon, and I know I'm the person who's keeping you before the next break. So I have, let's say, my cue cards here to make sure that I stay on track and I finish on time. So from my side, you heard a lot about computing power, software, etc., and all of this lives in data centers. And if I think back to the days when I actually contributed to building the first data center, I remember it was 2003. I was working in Singapore. At that point in time, there was a lot of hype about it, and the way we learned to build data centers in those days is very different to what I'm going to talk to you about now. So I'm going to speak to you about AI factories and how we actually take all that data and transform it into intelligence at scale. You heard a lot on why that's necessary, and now I'm going to tell you where it actually happens. So from this perspective, let me first start saying that AI is not only about software, it's very much also about infrastructure. So just to put it in perspective, so if you think about steel in India, you think about Jamshedpur. You think about refineries, you think about Jamnagar. And if you look at all of these systems, what do they have in common? They are systems which are designed to be reliable and produce an output at scale, repeatably. And AI factories is nothing else but the digital equipment for exactly that. So what this means, that an AI factory is not only about a single GPU, just like a normal factory is not about a single machine. It is about combining the compute, the data we heard about, as well as the heating, cooling, and energy which goes into a data center, making it come together, orchestrating it in a meaningful manner, and that's the shift we are going to talk about today. So you have already heard a number of examples that AI is already functional. It is happening in reality. It is delivering already measurable outcomes. We heard about how AI can actually optimize about 30% of the operational costs in the buildings. Peter spoke about it. We heard in Dirk's presentation an example of how, for heavy industry, predictive maintenance can reduce breakdowns by 70%. And we know, for example, in other areas, in the finance sector, where people use a lot of data centers, that with AI-powered cooling, you can optimize costs by 50% plus. Now just imagine bringing this to India. So if you look at the steel plants in Odisha, just imagine preventing 2/3 of the unplanned stoppages. Or if you look at a data center in Navi Mumbai, if you can optimize, let's say, 55% of the energy consumption. We are not talking here incremental improvement. We are talking about a structural advantage. Now, let's go and look at some statistics related to India. So if you look at it, about 20% of global data is actually generated here. However, less than 3% of that is actually hosted in India in global data centers. Let me try and give you an analogy which will help, let's say, visualize the whole topic. So if you look at 10 trucks transporting data, 2 of them are filled up here in India, but none of them actually park here or get leveraged here. And I think that is an important topic to look at because that is obviously something which is getting lost. Now, where does all this data come from? India has the largest digital payment system with UPI. We have, let's say, one of the largest bases of telecommunication subscriptions in the world. Nearly everyone has a mobile phone or a smartphone, as we heard it. And you can also increasingly see, and we heard it actually when Adverb was on the stage, where you see number of companies starting to adopt AI cross manufacturing. You will find it in the energy system, you will find it in agriculture, and you will find it in healthcare. So if you look at projections, you will see that as a result, the compute capacity of data centers is anticipated to grow to 8 gigawatts by 2030. Now, 8 gigawatts may not say much, and I did some research. And this is about, let's say, the electricity demand of a city like Delhi. So just imagine, it is the electricity demand of Delhi on a hot summer day, and this is getting consumed by data centers which will be built up here. And this means AI infrastructure or AI factories. It's not just about IT. We are talking about urban scale infrastructure. So, let's try and understand what AI factories are and where's the difference to those kind of data centers I was building when I started off my career in 2003. So if you look at AI factories, because of the huge demand, they are going to grow much faster than traditional cloud data centers. It is anticipated that about 4x growth will happen in AI factories compared to cloud data centers. And of course, what is also happening is there's a lot of consumption of energy. You see here the shift moving from megawatts to gigawatts, and as such, an AI factory becomes absolutely relevant to the grid, as I tried to highlight in my previous example with the city of Delhi. Gigawatt campuses can influence grid stability, and thus they have to be part of how the grid actually plans for it. And this means also the grid will need to actually simulate and anticipate the demand for AI factories because they are very different in load than traditional cloud data centers. So if you look at a traditional data center, this used to use about 10 to 40 megawatts per building, and a campus today may go up to 80 megawatts. We are now seeing actually 150 megawatts happening in a building. So just to understand this is around about 100,000 urban houses. That's the consumption of the energy that's happening. And when we talk about gigawatts campuses, you can imagine the great energy demand you will need from power generation, etc. So you're looking at multiple thermal units, which is practical. So where does this come from? This starts actually in the racks itself. And I want to try and visualize. So the rack is the cupboard where all the compute power goes in. And in that rack, you will see that the consumption is going from about a few kilowatts to multiple kilowatts. So moving from, let's say, 2 BHK rooms to actually the power needed to power a whole residential building with, let's say, 30 floors. Yeah? And that is something which is obviously going to have an impact. Now, this is one reason why this is important, because when you start looking at this kind of a demand, and this all in a cupboard, then you want to make sure that you get it right. And this is where simulation software, digital twins come into the game, because they help us make sure that before we actually build this kind of equipment or this kind of infrastructure, that we get it right. I think everyone would agree, if we were planning a similar complex system like building a metro system of a city, you would not do this without doing simulation first, because you would not want to get it wrong in the real world. And this is also necessary when we talk about AI campuses, because of the huge demand this has on the overall infrastructure. So, a second part which comes into the game is actually the aspect of cooling. So what happens is when you get so much power being compressed into such a small space, obviously the density increases, heat goes up. And with heat, you need to find ways to get this heat taken out very quickly. As I said, when I was building data centers, we used to talk about air cooling racks. That's not going to be sufficient because in the past, if, let's say, you had a cooling problem, you had about half an hour's time to react. With the huge density increase you will have in AI factories, that's not going to be sufficient because you'll only have a few seconds where you can react. And in this kind of a context, it is going to be absolutely impossible to just rely on human intervention. You have to look at how this can be automated in a smart manner. So from this perspective, this is going to be critical. The second part which is going to be critical is you'll see a shift from air-based cooling to liquid cooling. And if you shift towards liquid cooling, there are typically two approaches. One is immersed cooling, and the other one is basically direct-to-chip cooling. And those are the technology which are being accessed. At the moment, you will see direct chip cooling being the ones which are currently being tested out in a number of the co-locators and hyperscalers in India. And basically, having this mix of power and cooling synchronized in an efficient manner is going to be critical to the success of AI data centers. So, where is this all coming from? It is coming from actually silicon. We heard about silicon in the previous presentation on how actually the capacity of silicon can be optimized with the help of AI. Well, the news is, if you look at the capacity growth of processing power, you'll see from the energy it consumes, it's gone from 200 watts to about 3,000 watts in a very limited amount of time. Yeah? And this has multiple impacts. The first topic is the way you power these devices has to change, because now the technology you need to get power to these equipment needs to be DC instead of AC power as it's used today. And the second part is you have to find ways to actually look at with increasing power consumption and increasing heat to switch from air-cooled racks to liquid-cooled racks. And basically, with the processing power increasing, this is going to happen pretty soon. So when we talk about switching technology, etc., this is not because, let's say, someone's trying to do a pitch saying, okay, there's a good infrastructure which is good for you to have and make it work, but actually here physics is making the change in infrastructure, the change in design absolutely necessary, so that with these kind of designs you can become more energy efficient and more sustainable in the long run. So what are these AI factories going to look like? Well, they're not all going to be just GPUs. They are going to be a mix of different type of topics which will happen in these factories. I gave you previously the example of a steel plant or refinery. So also here, you have different things which get produced. In the same way, AI factories will have a combination of low density, mid density, and high density compute with different topics which go into it, CPUs, GPUs, TPUs. And as a result, you have to look at this as something which has to be optimized on an individual basis. Let me try and use a different analogy to share with you how this sort of works, just to put it into a more physical context. So if you look at a railway system, on a railway system, you have freight trains, you have passenger trains, you have, let's say, intercity trains, and they all run on the same rail network. And actually getting this mix of which freight trains should go at what time, same way which express train should go at what time, getting that mix is exactly what you will have to do also in an AI factory in the future, is balancing these things in an orchestrated manner, because you will have a mix of densities, a mix of cooling, a mix of life cycles, because you're not all going to put in one part. And the most successful operator of these kind of infrastructures will be the person who's able to do this best and most effectively. And here again, digital twin technology comes in, because it helps you answer the question Peter put up, what if? Yeah? And that is going to be a critical topic when it comes to actually optimizing this infrastructure. So, let me summarize. So first of all, this is not about having an IT experiment. Yeah? It is foundational infrastructure. You can see that this is also impacting the kind of KPIs people will be looking at. In the history, people would look at uptime, if you looked at data center infrastructure. Tomorrow, you'll be looking at learning speed, which becomes critical. AI output is measured in tokens. So if you look at a refinery, to take my previous analogy, you measure barrels per day. If you look at an AI factory, you're going to measure tokens per second. So the question is, how can you do this more effectively? And this is, of course, a combination of semiconductor or chip efficiency, as well as infrastructure efficiency, which actually enables all of this. PUE used to be used to measure actually energy efficiency of a data center. What is going to happen in future is people are going to focus more on watts per token, energy consumption per token. And those operators who can optimize this will have a strategic benefit, because, as I said, you're looking at huge consumption of energy, both for heating, both for energy as well as cooling. And if you can save energy or you can reuse heat, you are going to have an advantage. From this perspective, I think you see this is super strategic, and it also became very clear in all of the discussions that this is not something one player can do alone. You saw Peter with the ecosystem partners here on the stage, like NVIDIA. We have also other ecosystem partners here who are also exhibiting in our Collab space, and I want to motivate you to go and have a look at some of those technologies being leveraged in those areas, because I think it's a combination. The person who can get together the right collection of ecosystem partners is going to be successful. With that, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I hand it back to Indu. Thanks a lot.